Did you know that some of Hollywood's biggest stars weren't just changing the movies they appeared in, but also the way we thought about gender itself? In the golden age of Hollywood, stars were more than just actors. They were trendsetters, pushing boundaries both on and off the screen. These icons didn't just challenge societal norms, they redefined what it meant to be a man or woman in a world that had very specific expectations. Today, we're diving into the bold moves and daring roles that old Hollywood stars took to challenge gender stereotypes and blur the lines between masculinity and femininity. From on-screen performances to their personal lives, these stars weren't afraid to take risks. So get ready to discover how these legends not only revolutionized cinema, but also sparked a conversation about gender that still resonates today. Breaking the mold: gender roles in early Hollywood. In the early days of Hollywood, the film industry was highly gendered. Women were often confined to roles that emphasized traditional femininity: mothers, wives, or damsels in distress. Men, on the other hand, were cast as heroic figures, strong and assertive, embodying masculine ideals. The studios, which held tight control over their stars, carefully cultivated these identities to maintain a clear-cut distinction between men and women both on-screen and off. However, as Hollywood began to evolve, so did the people who worked in it. Some stars refused to fit into these neat categories, offering more complex portrayals of gender and identity. Their actions, whether deliberate or accidental, signaled a shift in how gender roles would be viewed in the years to come. The femme fatale: women who took control. In the early days of Hollywood, women were usually cast in roles that reflected society's expectations: sweet, innocent, and passive. But then a new type of woman emerged on screen, and she completely broke the mold. This character was the femme fatale, a woman who was bold, confident, and often morally ambiguous. She wasn't content to sit quietly by while others controlled her fate. Instead, she took charge, used her beauty and intelligence, and controlled her destiny. The rise of the femme fatale marked a major shift in how women were portrayed in films, and actresses like Barbara Stanwyck and Marlene Dietrich played a huge part in making this character unforgettable. Barbara Stanwyck, in films like Double Indemnity, 1944, showed a woman who wasn't afraid to manipulate others to get what she wanted. Her character, Phyllis Dietrichson, was smart, calculating, and willing to do whatever it took to take control of her life. At a time when women were often portrayed as passive and dependent, Stanwyck's role was revolutionary. She showed that women could be complex characters, capable of being both seductive and ruthless. Her performance made her a standout star, and she became a symbol of women taking charge in an industry that had mostly reserved those traits for men. But Marlene Dietrich took it even further, embracing a persona that went beyond the typical boundaries of gender. Known for her collaborations with director Josef von Sternberg, Dietrich portrayed characters that broke social norms and challenged traditional ideas about gender and sexuality. In films like Morocco, 1930, she wore men's clothing and openly flirted with other women. This was shocking at the time, as it defied the rigid expectations of what women should look like and how they should behave. Dietrich's on-screen persona was not just about looking different. It was about expressing an identity that was fluid, complex, and beyond simple labels. She was both a symbol of power and a symbol of the unknown, with a mystique that captivated both men and women. But the impact of these actresses didn't stop at their performances. Marlene Dietrich famously wore pants in public, something that was almost unthinkable for women in the early 20th century. By doing so, she wasn't just making a fashion statement. She was challenging gender norms and showing that women could embrace styles and behaviors that had traditionally been reserved for men. Dietrich wasn't the only one. Many other actresses in old Hollywood used their style to defy expectations. These women weren't just playing roles in movies. They were living examples of the power of breaking free from societal constraints. The femme fatale was more than just a character on screen. It was a symbol of women taking control, living on their terms, and challenging the world around them. Through their performances and their lives, these stars showed that women could be powerful, independent, and in charge of their destinies, changing Hollywood forever. Men who defied masculine stereotypes. Just as women in old Hollywood were breaking barriers and pushing gender boundaries, men were also challenging the traditional image of masculinity. Figures like James Dean, Rock Hudson, and Cary Grant redefined what it meant to be a man on screen. These stars showcased vulnerability, emotional depth, and complexity, which went against the stoic, tough guy image that had dominated Hollywood for so long. James Dean, one of the most iconic figures of his time, became a symbol of a new type of masculinity. In Rebel Without a Cause, 1955, he portrayed a troubled youth who was not afraid to show his emotions. Dean's character wasn't just rebellious, he was introspective and vulnerable, breaking away from the typical strong, silent man role that Hollywood had showcased for decades. His raw, emotional performances resonated deeply with audiences and made him a symbol of youthful angst. Dean's portrayal of a man who struggled with his emotions and identity set him apart as a groundbreaking actor in Hollywood. Cary Grant, often seen as the suave, charming leading man, also pushed the boundaries of traditional masculinity. While known for his comedic timing and cool demeanor, Grant often portrayed characters with emotional depth and complexity. His ability to show vulnerability beneath his polished exterior added layers to his on-screen persona. Grant's roles showed that men didn't always have to be tough or stoic to be attractive or powerful. His portrayal of vulnerability and sensitivity hinted at a different side of masculinity, one that allowed men to express softness and even insecurity. On top of his on-screen performances, Grant's personal life, including his relationships, raised questions about gender norms in Hollywood, further defying expectations. Perhaps the most striking example of a man challenging gender norms was Rock Hudson. Known for his heartthrob status in romantic comedies and dramas in the 1950s and 1960s, Hudson was the epitome of Hollywood masculinity. However, despite his public persona as a leading man, he was secretly gay, something that Hollywood studios worked hard to keep hidden. His career flourished, but his personal life was at odds with the image of the ideal, heterosexual leading man that Hollywood tried to present. Hudson's ability to maintain his career while hiding his true identity demonstrated how the entertainment industry often forced stars to live in the shadow of a manufactured image, despite their true selves. His success proved that a man could be both a heartthrob and someone who defied the restrictive gender norms placed upon him by Hollywood. Hudson's legacy, in particular, reflects how stars had to navigate the narrow expectations of Hollywood, managing public personas that often didn't align with their private lives. His career and personal struggles highlight how deeply the industry tried to control stars' identities, yet Hudson's lasting impact shows how even those who didn't fit into the macho mold still achieved fame and left a mark on Hollywood history. Cross-dressing and androgyny in Old Hollywood. Old Hollywood wasn't just about roles that challenged gender expectations. It also explored gender fluidity in powerful ways. Stars like Mae West, Constance Bennett, and Clara Bow blurred the lines between masculine and feminine traits, not only in their performances, but also in how they lived their lives and presented themselves. These icons didn't just play with gender roles on screen. They became symbols of a more fluid and diverse representation of gender in Hollywood. Mae West was one of the most daring actresses of her time, using her sexuality and sharp wit to completely rewrite the rules of female behavior. Known for her bold, risque humor and confident persona, West didn't just play the stereotypical feminine woman. She often portrayed characters who used their sexuality as a tool to manipulate and dominate the men around them. Her ability to make sexuality a central part of her character's power broke barriers in a time when women were expected to be passive and submissive. West's unapologetic sexual power, combined with her sharp dialogue, made her a feminist icon ahead of her time, even if she didn't always fit the traditional feminist mold. On the opposite side, Constance Bennett brought a different kind of rebellion to the screen through cross-dressing. In films like The Party's Over, 1934, Bennett portrayed women who were far from the typical passive domestic roles. Instead, her characters took on more assertive, independent qualities, breaking free from the traditional expectations of femininity. By wearing men's clothing and engaging in behavior typically seen as masculine, such as taking control in romantic situations, Bennett's roles hinted at a future where gender wasn't so strictly defined. She showed that women could step into the traditionally male roles and behaviors, especially in terms of sexual independence and assertiveness. Meanwhile, Clara Bow, often referred to as the first It Girl, symbolized a new era of sexual freedom and independence for women. Her it factor wasn't just about her beauty, it was about her unapologetic, bold spirit. Bow's characters were active participants in their desires, a stark contrast to the passive female roles that had dominated Hollywood before. She played women who were in control of their sexuality and were not afraid to express their desires, which was groundbreaking for its time. Clara Bow became an icon of sexual freedom, helping shift the perception of women as not just objects of desire, but as individuals with their wants and needs. Together, these actresses defied conventional gender roles and portrayed women who were sexually empowered, assertive, and unafraid to challenge societal norms. Their portrayals of cross-dressing, androgyny, and sexual independence marked a shift in Hollywood that laid the groundwork for future generations of women to express their gender and sexuality in new, diverse ways. The role of drag in gender expression. Old Hollywood wasn't just about on-screen characters breaking gender norms. It was also about stars who became symbols of defiance and camp, especially when it came to drag and gender fluidity. Judy Garland and Bette Davis both pushed boundaries in unique ways, with their careers and personas resonating deeply with LGBTQ+ communities and challenging societal norms of gender and identity. Judy Garland, best known for her role as Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, 1939, became an unexpected icon of gay culture. While her character in the film represented innocence and optimism, Garland's personal life, marked by struggles with addiction, personal loss, and identity, spoke to the larger themes of living under societal pressure. Many gay men and women, who often felt like outcasts or misunderstood, found solace in her story. Garland's struggles were their struggles, and her career became a reflection of the challenges faced by many in the LGBTQ+ community. Her popularity among gay audiences grew out of a shared experience of defiance against societal norms, and she came to symbolize the fight for acceptance and self-expression. The connection between Garland and her LGBTQ+ fans is a powerful reminder of how Hollywood stars can transcend their roles and become symbols of a much larger cultural movement. Bette Davis, on the other hand, defied gender expectations in a different but equally groundbreaking way. Known for playing strong, complex women, Davis didn't shy away from portraying characters that were often abrasive, independent, and unapologetically powerful. In roles that often emphasized her defiance and refusal to conform, Davis became the embodiment of female strength. Her portrayal of the villainess in All About Eve, 1950, cemented her reputation as a star who wasn't afraid to show the darker side of womanhood, traits that went against the soft, demure femininity that many actresses were expected to portray at the time. Davis was unapologetic in her career choices and public persona, defying the norms of the Hollywood starlet and establishing herself as a feminist icon of her time. Both Garland and Davis exemplified how stars in old Hollywood weren't just performing on screen, they were symbols of resistance to the rigid gender norms of their time. Garland's association with gay culture and her struggles with identity made her a beacon for the LGBTQ+ community, while Davis's fierce independence and powerful roles reshaped the way women were seen on the big screen. Their legacies remind us of how gender boundaries were constantly being pushed in Hollywood, even when the world around them tried to keep those boundaries firmly in place. The rise of nonconformity, shaping future generations. Old Hollywood wasn't just about glamour and acting, it also reflected the social struggles of its time. As stars challenged gender norms, they helped shape a cultural conversation that would have a profound impact on the generations that followed. These stars were, in many ways, early advocates for sexual and gender fluidity, even if they never used those terms themselves. While they didn't always have the freedom to express their true selves in public, their on-screen roles and personal lives showcased a range of human experiences. This allowed future generations to imagine a world where gender could be more flexible and where stars could be celebrated for who they were rather than who they were expected to be. These stars didn't just break gender norms, they redefined what it meant to be a star in old Hollywood. From Judy Garland's powerful connection with the LGBTQ+ community to Bette Davis's portrayal of strong, independent women, these icons left an undeniable mark on film and culture. So what's your take on how old Hollywood stars pushed the boundaries of gender? Do you think their impact still resonates today? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey through Hollywood's boldest moments, don't forget to hit subscribe and join us for more stories that changed the world of film.